First, I want to talk to Stephen from Melbourne, Australia. Again, a country that, as canon of this show dictates, does not exist. Stephen, what's going on?
Hi, Dan and Zod. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I see from the call screener here that you think belief in God is a desperate attempt to sublimate a fear of death, meaninglessness, and suffering. That was the call screener's words. Is that what you wanted to talk about?
Yes, it is. I did vacillate a bit over the use of the word desperate because I didn't want to be overly pejorative. But I've been watching a number of these ACA programs and really been enjoying my time listening to the different views and believers attempting to justify their belief in a God. But the thread that I seem to identify is that I find that often believers will, and perhaps atheists do this too, will tiptoe around what I think are the central issues. And to me, that is that a lot of people are uncomfortable with some of the central truths of what it means to be alive. That is mortality, sickness, illness, death, meaninglessness, suffering, work, toil. So being very uncomfortable with that, sometimes having anxiety, fear, terror about that. God is a powerful tool for them to, I guess, reconcile with these fears.
Sure.
And that being the case, it's supremely difficult to attack that strategy for dealing with that central reality. So they might tiptoe around and debate issues about objective morality or whatever excuse that they might offer for a belief in God. But I think that most of the time we're not really addressing the real issue of why they believe, which is essentially wish fulfillment, wishing that things weren't as bleak and meaningless as they probably are.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the crux of my argument.
We don't, because it's not fair for me to talk to a Christian that calls into the show and just be like, well, you're believing this because of fear, because I don't know people's hearts and I don't know, what the truth is. If they tell me that it is on fear, though, I'll believe them. So yeah, in conversation, right? It's not a polite thing to say. And also you can make assumptions there that, may not be 100% accurate, but, show me a serious religion that, doesn't have an opinion or a theory about what happens after you die or what happens, with death, right? I mean, like, you're right. That is an inherent part of what makes religion so appealing. It gives you answers to the questions that people have been having since people have been people. And so, it's definitely hard to address those elements without coming off as crass. But you can't deny it. You can't deny that that's there. I believe because, well, for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons was fear. Fear was one of the hardest things for me to let go of, just the fear of identifying as an atheist. Again, we talked about this a lot on this episode. Fear of losing my community, but also just fear of just not going to heaven. Like, that was the thing. And of course, now I'm not afraid of any of that, but like, that took time and it took talking with other people about it. And it took research, and that was a motivated self-interest there. And if somebody doesn't have that motivated self-interest to kind of figure out what's real, what's not, conversations are just so much harder. What do you think about this, Zod?
I appreciate these insights into, I think it's good to introspect on what broadly might make religion appeal to people in general. I think there is definitely a danger, like you said, Dan, that you can't approach a Christian like this. That's a very disrespectful thing to do in conversation, or at least it will be perceived as disrespectful, no matter how softly you try to put it. I will say from personal experience, having long time been a believer and known a lot of different believers from different denominations, I really don't think you can boil why people believe down to any one specific thing. I think there are way too many factors that go into it across the religion, even within one person. I think there are a lot of different things that bring someone into and hold them in a religion. For me personally, fear was not really a part of it, except fear of giving up a certain identity that I associated with. I was more afraid of the threat of hell than I was of the possibility that God might not be real and I might just die and fall asleep. That would have been kind of a relief compared to what I was anxious about growing up. But I think it's really complicated. I think what I think it's good to introspect maybe on internally on the various things that might get people into religion and why they fall to it. But to me, the more important thing is, what do these ideas do to how people think? What kind of conclusions do they lead them to, and how do they undermine our ability to approach them? So more than getting to why do people become religious, I like to think of what does religion do to our thought processes and our conversation, and how can we try to improve those? So I don't know if that helps.
I think that definitely helps. Steven, sorry, we're kind of running short on time here, so I'm going to let you go now. But thanks again
Thanks for the time, though. I appreciate that. Thanks, both.
Absolutely. Yeah, glad we got to hear that take. And yeah, like Zod said, great insights. And there's nothing that I inherently disagree with. It's just, it's hard to, talk about it in a nice way, because it's going into people's psychology, and that can be.
It sounds a lot like you're an atheist because you want to sin if you try to sin.
Yeah, it does. It does sound like too. Yeah, it definitely does. But let's get to our last call here.